Hey guys, Steve Harris here with MuseThemes.com. Today we're looking at Rapid Reveal, and this is a new widget that's kind of loosely inspired by Google Images. So you can see we have an image grid here, and it's fully responsive, so it looks great as you scale up and down. If you mouse over any of these images, there's a little bit of an overlay effect, and if we click on one, it actually expands open to reveal more content. So you get a bigger kind of size preview of the image, you get a title, a description, a link, and then we have some navigation controls. So you can click forward and back through your gallery, and you have a close button to close out. So there are tons of great use cases for a widget like this. You could use it for a portfolio where you're displaying each of the client's individual work within this grid, and it's linking out to kind of deeper case study or bigger portfolio pages. You could use it like we are in an upcoming theme for a course description. Our theme is going to be yoga inspired, and this is used to display each of the courses and the dates they're on, etc. So let me jump into Muse right away here. This widget does take some setup, so let's not waste any time. So here I am on a blank Muse page, and of course to start, let's go to our library panel, and I've already double clicked on the widget, it's in there, and let's just drag it out onto the canvas. Okay, so now that the widget is in there, the first thing I'm going to do is scale it down a little bit so I can see all of the panel options easily on screen. And let's open it up and see what we get. So we've got lots of these kind of collapsed panel areas, and the first two settings we get are the number of columns we want in this grid. So right now it's set to 3, and that's actually how our demo is right now, 3 columns of course. So let's leave it there. And then we've got some grid padding, so basically the spacing between the items in the grid. So I'm going to leave that set at 5 pixels for now by default. Then the first two collapsible areas here are for loading in your images and your content. So if I open up the first one, you can see we have basically 10 blocks that say enable the image. Okay, let's turn that on. And we've got add a file. So when we click add file, we can select any image. Now, one thing I recommend is pre-size your images to make sure they're all the same size. So I've got a selection of images here, the ones we've used in the demo, and they're about 600 by 400 pixels, and they're all the same size. So let's add in the first image here. Then we've got a title for this first image, and you can see we actually get a little preview right in Muse of the image, so that's kind of nice. So I'm just going to title this Gallery 1, and then we need to put some content in that area. So I already have Lorem Ipsum open here on screen, so I'm just going to grab a couple of sentences from Lorem Ipsum, just like that, and I'll copy and paste that into the content area. Okay, so in number 1, and done. And the last thing we can do here is add a URL or a link. So basically on the demo here, you can see that we have, when we open these, a read more button, and this is a link. So that's the link that you can enter into that box. So for now, for the demo, I'm just going to leave the link set up as pointing to Muse themes, just like that. And let's go ahead and enter in a couple more. I'll only do a couple of these for the purpose of this demo. So I'm going to enable images 2, 3, and 4. And let's add in some new files. So there's image 2, image 3, and image 4, like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to paste this same description text in for each of these boxes. Okay, there we go. And the next one, I can't really see the top of that box, of course, so let me just mouse down and paste that in there. Okay, good. So now we've got 4 images in here and set up. So the next area is for adding up to 20 images, so we can skip that one. So let's get into some of the deeper settings on this widget. There's lots of control over how things appear. So the next one we'll look at is the thumbnail settings. So if I open up thumbnail settings, basically you're looking at the overlay color and opacity of the thumbnails in the gallery. So right now we can set an overlay color to the thumbnails. So right now it's set as black by default, but the opacity is 0, so you're not seeing it. So if you wanted to have just kind of a subtle white overlay over your images, you could set this to white, and you could set an opacity. Let's go with something like 0.5. And there, so you can see that the actual images now have this opacity applied. So I don't really want that on my thumbnails. I want just the full images, and so I'm going to turn that off. Now we've got the thumbnail opacity on hover. So what this is going to do is give you an effect similar to what we've done in our demo here, where as you hover over an image, it goes slightly transparent. So let's set that thumbnail opacity on hover. And let me open it up again, and let's just leave that set at 0.8 or 80%. And now we've got the inactive thumbnail opacity, and that's what's going to happen when you've clicked on one and all the others are inactive at the time. So again, jumping into the demo, basically the inactive thumbnail opacity is what's happening right here while a content block is open. So by default, it's set at 0.5, and you know what? I'm going to leave it set at that for now. Okay, and then the next setting we have is to show the title on the thumbnail. So you can see the titles are showing up here already on the gallery. And if we turn that off, they go away completely. So you can set those titles if you want them to show, and then you can set a position. So they could be, let's say, in the bottom right. You can set a size, a font, and a color for that text. So it's completely stylable. I'm going to turn it off now for this demo. And then we're done for the thumbnail settings. Let's look at the next block, which is the preview content settings. So basically these are the settings of how the content in that expanded or revealed area looks. Okay, and this is a bigger panel in here. So I'll quickly touch on each of these settings, but I think they're going to be pretty obvious what they are. So we've got the preview background color, and this is going to be the color of this area in here. So basically behind this expanded block. And, you know, I think we're far enough along here that I can preview this in the browser to show you how it's looking. So let's scale it out a little bit. And then let's add one of those preview background colors in. So it was in preview content settings. Let's set the background as gray for now. And I'll show you how this looks when we open it up. Okay, so let's preview it in the browser. And there's our gallery, and when I click on this and it opens up, you can see that the preview background is indeed gray this time. So that's what that setting controls. So let me jump back in there. White probably makes more sense here, so I'll just change that back to white. Okay. Then of course we've got an opacity setting for that as well. I'm going to move this over so my content window is a little easier to see. So below that, we've got the content area text alignment settings. We've got a padding setting if you want to kind of space the text further away from the image. Then we've got the title, font, color, size. So these are basically all for fonts. And then this is the fonts on the description. And then this is for setting whether you want to use a link text or link button. So in our demo, we've used a button. And in that button, we have it say read more, and then we can set the background and kind of the hover and overlay colors on that button. So lots of settings in here, all of them really obvious what they do. And then the last content block here is called the navigation settings. And in the navigation settings, we get to set how we want users to be able to move through this gallery. So they can apply an arrow, they can use, say, previous and next text if they'd rather. So basically, you've got the navigation font, font size, and then this is an important one, previous text and next text. So right now, we're using just kind of the greater than and less than symbols. And that can give you this kind of effect right here. And in the demo that we have on our site, we've actually used these unique arrows. And so you can use, this is that kind of special character code. And I'll show you what these look like. I have this file open already in Muse. So the code that we put in there for those arrows looks like this. Here's our gallery. And if I open up those settings and I look at the navigation, this is the character code for those previous and next arrows. So you can pretty much use anything you want. If you look this up online, you'll find a huge guide of different icons and different codes that you can use. So jumping back to my demo, and let's just have a look at the last few settings here. Okay, so we can of course set the font color and the background color for those arrows if we want. We can set sizes for each of them, and then we can style the close button as well. And it says close text, so you can again use an X in here, or you could use the word close if you'd rather. And then we've got sizing controls below that. So that's it. So there are a lot of settings in here, but most of them are pretty obvious what they do, and they generally control styling effects. So one thing I want to point out with this widget in terms of sizing too is if I'm using it on a responsive site, we have the option where we could expand it to be full width to the browser, and it works really well like that. I'll preview it in the browser here. So here's the widget at full width, and as I scale it down, once we get to a point where it's going to be too small, it's automatically going to reshuffle itself and keep scaling down until it goes down to a single column. We could also use this widget not at full width, let's say just a little bit inside our kind of full width here. If we turn on the allow page to expand, so kind of these little double arrows here in the top, I'll turn those on, and then what we're going to get is a similar effect but without it touching the sides of the window. So you can see that it is indeed scaling up with the browser. One other thing to note with this widget as well is it will push down existing content. So if I just draw kind of a little box or block down here below the gallery, I'm going to take it out of the footer. So it's just sitting below the gallery. And let me preview this in the browser. And click on the last image in my gallery. You can see that it pushes down this black box. So it will push your content below down and expand within itself. So that's about it for the Rapid Reveal widget setup. Even though the panel is pretty big, it doesn't take that long to set up. Most of it is just styling controls. And as you can see from our demo here, if you put some time into kind of refining those controls and setting some font styles and playing with things like that, you can get a really stylish and nice effect out of this widget. Thanks again for watching. Can't wait to see what you make with it. Cheers.